Imagine if you had a dragon as your best friend. Today I brought you one of the most amazing adventure and fantasy movies, How to Train Your Dragon, 2025. A story full of excitement, emotions, and suspense. Let's dive into the events together and discover the secrets. The movie opens at the island of Berk. Hiccup narrates over how the island is almost uninhabitable, however the largest hassle will be the dragons. The Vikings of Berk, led with the aid of using Hiccup's father, Chief Stoik the Vast, rally collectively as a swarm of dragons assaults their village and starts off evolved to scouse Barrow the sheep. Despite his hopes to sign up for the alternative Vikings, Hiccup is visible as greater of a liability. The different teenagers with inside the village, Snotlout, Fnut, Fishlegs and Astrid, the maximum respected of the younger Vikings and the item of Hiccup's affections, lend their hand, skilled below Gobber. Hiccup is going as much as certainly considered one among his personal inventions, a bolus shooter. Up with inside the sky, a Night Fury, the maximum feared and mysterious of all of the dragons, fires a blast on the village. Hiccup fires the bolus, which moves the Night Fury. However, he attracts the eye of some other dragon, which chases after him till Stoik bails him out with the aid of using combating it. The relaxation of the dragons flying away with their captured livestock. Stoik expresses his annoyance with Hiccup's interference disrupting their efforts in preventing the dragon threat. Hiccup expresses to Gobber how he simply needs that he may be just like the relaxation of the Vikings. Stoik leads a council assembly among the alternative Vikings. They were trying to find the dragon's nest with inside the hopes to wipe them out for good. However, their loss of achievement has commenced to deliver down their morale. After giving a rousing speech and taking note of the know-how of Elder Gothi, Stoik proceeds to spherical up his fleets to sail out. Before leaving, he has a coronary heart-to-coronary heart with Gobber approximately Hiccup's location with inside the tribe, and the way he concerns that he does now no longer have what it takes to do what they do. Gobber proposes that Stoik have Hiccup go through dragon education with the alternative teenagers. Desperate to show himself, Hiccup is going out into the woods to try to locate the Night Fury. He comes throughout the dragon trapped in his personal net. Hiccup walks over and prepares to kill him, however after searching into his eyes and seeing his accepting his fate, Hiccup alternatively comes to a decision to permit the Night Fury go. He roars in Hiccup's face earlier than flying away, however his tail fin is broken and stopping him from reaching complete flight. When Hiccup returns home, Stoik tells him approximately his dragon education, which Hiccup is reluctant to start. Hiccup joins the alternative teenagers with Gobber with inside the Trial of Flame. The others, besides Fishlegs, mock Hiccup for his loss of ability and the way he has regularly proved himself an embarrassment. Hiccup simply fires again over how Rough Nut and Tough Nut have been held again in dragon schooling, and the way Snotlout's call is dumber than his own. For their first assignment, Gobber has them dealing with the gruesome Gronkle. The teenagers are outwitted with the aid of using the dragon, who has to get wrangled again into its cage with the aid of using Gobber. Hiccup returns to the woods to search for the Night Fury and sees him suffering together along with his broken tail. He later rejoins Gobber and the teenagers over dinner, wherein he palms them the Book of Dragons to examine and recognize the exceptional forms of dragons. Hiccup shows to Astrid that there can be matters approximately dragons that the Vikings do now no longer recognize. However, Astrid has plans to end up leader in the future and thinks Hiccup could simply be status in her way. During their subsequent spherical of schooling, the teenagers cross up towards the deadly Natter, which additionally proves assignment to them. Stoik and his Vikings are cruising alongside a foggy component at the river. A small institution of dragons proceeds to assault the fleets, prompting the Vikings to shield themselves. Hiccup reveals the Night Fury by myself and techniques him with a fish. Seeing the dragon's retractable teeth, Hiccup names him Toothless. Toothless pukes up the fish's head, presenting it to Hiccup, which he reluctantly eats. After spending greater time together, Toothless permits Hiccup to area his hand upon his snout. Back at home, Hiccup makes a prosthetic tail fin to connect to Toothless, which enables him fly again. However, Hiccup nonetheless wishes to assist him manipulate his trajectory. In their subsequent spherical of schooling, the teenagers face the two-headed hideous Zippleback. While it chases the teenagers with inside the smoke clouds it emits, Hiccup surprises all people with the aid of fending it off the usage of a smoked eel, which he formerly noticed that Toothless recoiled at. Hiccup spends greater time with Toothless in secret, looking to assist him fly better, whilst additionally getting to know greater approximately the way to manage the alternative dragons. He reasons the Grunkle to get thrown off with the aid of using its allergies, and it scratches the Natter's neck to make it greater docile. This makes him greater famous with Snotlout, Fishlegs, and Roughnut and Toughnut. However, it makes Astrid greater suspicious of Hiccup. He later makes use of a meditated mild to subdue the tiny terrible terror, which bites Toughnut's nose. Elder Gothie additionally takes be aware of Hiccup's improvements. Hiccup receives a cheat sheet to assist him with Toothless as they take to the skies. They get excessive sufficient to fly throughout the land. However, Hiccup loses the sheet in midair, inflicting him and Toothless to fall. Once Hiccup is capable of regain manage of Toothless, he throws the sheet away and we could his instincts manual him, and the two start to jump and fly freely. Stoik returns to Berk with the rest of his fleet, and he's amazed to listen approximately how nicely Hiccup has been doing. After expressing superb pleasure in his son, he informs Hiccup that he ought to kill a dragon for his very last test. Hiccup attempts to run away with Toothless, however Astrid follows him to their hiding spot and discovers the Night Fury. They convey an unwitting Astrid alongside for a journey to show that he's harmless. Once Astrid tells Toothless she is sorry, he will become extra mild and lets in her to revel in flight the manner Hiccup did twins Roughnut and 2. Moments later, Toothless flies closer to an island along different dragons. They are returning to their nest, wherein Hiccup and Astrid discover their queen, the Red Death. After one Grunkle fails to convey enough food, the Red Death emerges and devours the dragon. They fly again to Berk, wherein Astrid wishes to tell the opposite Vikings that they located the nest. However, Hiccup fears in an effort to imply they'll kill Toothless. The subsequent day, Hiccup is pitted in opposition to the monstrous nightmare, which could set itself on fire. Just as Hiccup attempts to reveal the Vikings that the dragon isn't dangerous, Stoik reasons the monstrous nightmare to move berserk and begin jogging across the place. Toothless senses this and flies into the area to combat the opposite dragon to guard Hiccup. The different Vikings intervene, subduing and taking pictures Toothless notwithstanding Hiccup's protests. Stoik pulls Hiccup away and argues with him over breaking from tradition. However, Hiccup says that it's time they stopped killing dragons. He by chance we could it slip that he located the nest and that Toothless can manual the Vikings there. However, whilst he attempts to prevent Stoik, he disowns his son. After the Vikings set off, Astrid unearths Hiccup alone. He laments the state of affairs that he has positioned his satisfactory buddy in, and the way the Vikings are on foot right into a trap. After Astrid encourages him, Hiccup gathers the opposite 4 teenagers and has them take the captive dragons in order that they'll fly closer to the nest and shop Toothless and anybody else. The Vikings arrive out of doors the nest's area at the Dragon Island. Stoik orders them to interrupt via the partitions with their weapons. After breaking it open, the Red Death emerges and starts to incinerate the Viking ships. The teenagers arrive with their dragons to attract interest far from the Vikings, or even Snotlout's dad Spitelout seems happy with his son for the primary time. Hiccup is going to loose Toothless, however Stoik, after witnessing his son end up a leader, is going to interrupt Toothless from his restraints after the Deliver sinks underwater. Stoik apologizes to Hiccup and we could him and Toothless contend with business. Hiccup and Toothless fly excessive sufficient and Hearth place a blast on the Red Death to attract it as much as the skies. They get excessive above the clouds, in which the Red Death fires a big flame blast, which reasons the tail fin prosthetic to begin to deplete. Thinking quickly, Hiccup and Toothless take a dive, with the Red Death following. Hiccup instructions Toothless to Hearth place a blast in the Red Death's mouth, inflicting it to deplete and crash into the aspect of the mountain, in which it explodes right into a large fireball. Hiccup falls into the blast, and Toothless swoops in to seize him. The teenagers then take their creatures as much as the skies to fly across the island. Hiccup's narration concludes that even as Berk continues to be now no longer a terrific region to stay in, the high-quality issue approximately it might be dragons.